Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hello and welcome back. This is Talking Books and writing and stuff. And today we're talking books and writing and lots of other stuff, including hockey, with a guy, Theo Fleury. Hello, Theo. How are things with you today?
Things are good. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Well, thank you very much, and for me it's a pleasure to talk to you. And we'll talk about hockey. Everybody knows Theo from hockey with the Rangers, Avalanche, Calgary Flames, teams such as that. Even the mighty Belfast Giants over there in the British English Hockey League. Theo, I was looking at your stats, and 1,084 NHL games. Is that correct?
Yes.
1,088 points, so over a point a game. 1,840 penalty minutes, so you are not a shrinking violet. And you are not, as yet, that I know of, in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Does that kind of frost your berries a bit?
Well, here's how I see it. They only put in 4 guys every year, and so, obviously there's lots of qualified people that, should be in there. And so I am waiting patiently, for the call. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
And Theo Fleury is with us talking about hockey life in general. His book, called Playing with Fire, came out a few years ago. And one of the quotes I got right from it was, it was inspired by rage, or your whole career seems to be inspired by rage. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that.
Well, I think it was calculated rage. I don't think it was, a singular, sort of word. I realized early on in my life that, I was up against it because of, I was vertically challenged, so to speak, and so quickly and early on in my hockey career, I figured that I had to play a different way, and that different way might have looked like rage, but I think it was very calculated, and the skill part, the playing part, the scoring goals, the making plays, that came naturally. And in order for me to have success, I needed to create room on the ice. And so how do you do that? Well, you, as a small guy, you need to create room for yourself. And so, I had to play a certain way and a certain style, and I was not going to be intimidated by anybody, and I wasn't afraid, or I wasn't scared, and so there was a lot of guys that were bigger than me that I learned early on that I could intimidate myself, and the more I was able to intimidate people I was playing against, the more room I got on the ice. And so, I was a competitor, and I hated to lose, and I was willing to pretty much die in order to win. And if you weren't willing to have that attitude or that way of playing the game, then then I was able to have a lot of success against you.
And you're one of those guys, and you probably heard this before from lots of people, from me on the outside looking in, that when you were playing against one of, I'll say in quotes, my teams, I just hated you, but wanted you on our team, if you know what I mean. Do you get that Do you get that reaction a lot?
Well, I think it's the greatest compliment you can be paid by as an athlete is, I hated you, because that meant that I was doing my job, because, I didn't play the game to be liked. I played the game to win and, and win at all costs. And so when you play that style of game, the visiting fans are, they're going to have that attitude towards you. And so, I thrived on that too, going into hostile environments and, shoving it up there, proverbial, you know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
So, but, like I said, I think it's the ultimate compliment you can be paid by, your opponents. And, if you ask Wayne Gretzky, about me, his first words out of his mouth would be, I hated playing against that guy. And so, if you're easy to play against, you shouldn't be playing in the NHL.
Exactly. I think you have to, what do they call it, sandpaper or grit, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of equate your style, and just again, an observer from afar, like Kenny Linsman or Esa Tikkanen, or one of my favorites, Alex Burrows from the Canucks. Guys who go out there and especially Alex Burrows crawled up from the East Coast Hockey League into more than 800 games in the NHL. And yeah, they're the guys that the other guys just despise. And yet that makes them a good player, and that helps the team, I suppose.
There's no question. There's no question that, the more Alex Burrows and, Esa Tikkanens and, the more guys you have in your team like that, the more likely you're going to have success.
Did you watch any of the Stanley Cup playoffs from the bubble in Edmonton or Toronto?
I watched the last game. That was it.
And I guess the NHL has to have some credit for pulling that off under all these strange circumstances that are going on these days.
Yeah, I thought right from, the beginning, they did it the right way. And the testing was well done, and, the players were safe, and then they brought their families in and stuff. So, it was well done by the, by the NHL because honestly, I can't remember what day it was, but there was 71 live sporting events on one day, I believe. And I can't tell you how sick I was of watching Home and Garden Television Network,
right,
and Food Network, and movies and Netflix and all that stuff. So it was awesome to be able to, for all the leagues to, take the precautions and do all the testing and gave us something to, bide the time while we were sort of in lockdown.
And the fact that there were no actual spectators involved, and yet the teams, that didn't seem to bother anybody. And they just went out there and had at it, as it were, like it was the last games of their careers or the first days of training camp or something. So do crowds actually have some sort of impact on a game?
Yeah, I would say, especially in the playoffs, when you play in your home building, that's your big advantage, and that's what the regular season is all about. Is you get the opportunity to position yourself throughout the regular season to have home ice advantage, and it's definitely an advantage that that's important, especially in the playoffs, and so yeah, I think. But I thought they did a great job in Toronto and Edmonton, how they, dressed up the rinks and used the score clocks and, and the virtual fans and, and all that stuff too. So, they did the best they could with what they had. And, ultimately, they crowned the champion and that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. And you won the Stanley Cup back in '89 with Calgary. Not you, the team, of course, because it's the ultimate team trophy, I think, because everybody will agree. The hardest one to win. You beat my Montreal Canadiens, I think, in that final series. Well, they're not mine, but you know what I'm saying. And,
yeah.
I'll never forgive you for that. You know that. But what's the emotion? I mean, I was on a team a couple years back with a bunch of young guys, and it was a tournament in Kelvington, Saskatchewan in the summertime, and we tied the game. Came from behind and tied the game. And I've never seen a dressing room so full of excitement in my life, with all these guys jumping around like we'd won the Stanley Cup. So what kind of emotion? It must just be terrific just to have that thing that you've looked at your entire life, your entire career, and actually know that your name is going to be on it.
Well, I think, when you grew up as a kid, you dream about playing in the NHL. And then when you get to the NHL, you dream about winning Stanley Cups. And so for me, that happened all at once, I got called up to Calgary on New Year's Day, 1989, and then 6 months later, I was carrying the Stanley Cup around the Montreal Forum. So, and I think at the time I didn't quite realize how significant winning a Stanley Cup would be. Obviously, 30 some odd years later, you definitely appreciate it more than in the moment. But it's the ultimate feeling. It doesn't get much better than that. But the thing was I really believe that we had a good enough team to maybe win one or two more cups along the way. And the strange thing was that I played another 14 years after that, and the closest I got to winning a Stanley Cup was when I got traded to Colorado, and we lost to Dallas in Game 7 of the conference finals, and Dallas went on to beat Buffalo to win their one and only Stanley Cup. So there's a reason why they call it the hardest trophy in pro sports to win. And, I was very lucky to come to an organization that had some incredible talent and incredible people. And, it was not only was it great to win a Stanley Cup, but it was, I think more importantly, I got mentored by some pretty amazing people, likes of Lanny McDonald and Tim Hunter, and got to play with Dougie Gilmore and Joe Newendike and Gary Roberts and Joe Mullen and all these guys. And then there was guys like Colin Patterson and Rick Walmsley, guys like that, Al McInnes, Mike Vernon. That team was pretty stacked, and it was an amazing experience to be around these guys and learn from them.
And it's always a knock sometimes, if you can call it that. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist, he just retired from the Rangers this year, or got bought out, I guess. And one of the things these so-called experts talk about is, well, he never won the cup. Well, one guy can't win the cup, right? Like, why should that be a knock against a guy's career if he didn't win the cup?
Well, I think it's... I think if you ask a guy like Dan Marino what his biggest regret is, and he would probably say that he didn't win a Super Bowl, and we are paid to win the Stanley Cup, and every year that we don't achieve that, it's a disappointment, and it should drive us to become better and better. And yeah, so, it's a competitive industry. There's only 700 jobs in all the NHL, and it's a tough racket, and but it's highly competitive, and like I said, you're there to win, and when you don't, it's very disappointing.
Yeah, and like you say, there's 700 jobs at the top level. Like, there's probably 700 players, hockey players, in and around the Radisson, Saskatchewan area here, with population of 500. So of the millions and millions of people around the world who play hockey, and lots of them quite seriously, to have one of those 700 jobs is quite a special achievement. We're talking with Theo Fleury, NHLer, who should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, even though I never liked him when I watched him play, because he wasn't on one of my teams. But seriously, I'm opening the book, Playing with Fire, Theo, and I'm struck, page 2, right away, with the similarity of your initial situation that you talk about when you had a gun in your mouth. Clint Malarchuk, read his book, almost the same scenario. He got all upset one night and went into his, I shouldn't say upset, because I think I've been in that situation myself, got the gun, put it in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and let's say it missed. So how close do you think you were, just getting serious here, to pulling that trigger?
Well, I think there's a reason why people get to that point in their life, and obviously my story is filled with lots of childhood trauma, and basically, for the majority of my life, I lived in emotional pain and suffering. And anybody who knows anything about mental illness or addiction issues, that addiction piece is what we use as a coping mechanism to suppress or numb out, these, feelings of, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. And so, I was at the point where I was completely exhausted from living in emotional pain and suffering for the majority of my life. And, I tried everything on the planet to get rid of this way that I was feeling. And, I got to the point where, I didn't have a whole lot of hope left that I could overcome the emotional stuff. And, I got a gun and got some bullets and, loaded the gun, put the gun in my mouth. And, right at the moment of truth, when, it was time to pull the trigger and end my life, this little voice in my head said, you've never quit anything in your life, why you quit now? And that allowed me to pause, take the gun and throw it into the desert. And, that was the day that I sort of realized that I didn't want to die. And maybe it was time to get honest and share my story, with the world.
And you have done in Playing with Fire, and now afterwards, I'm sure, with motivational speeches and things like that. Another line that jumped out at me, because you are only as sick as your secrets. So these secrets seem to carry a lot of us, or keep us not from not going to a good space, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So,
yep, there's no question that. And I heard that line. I was in a treatment center, and I went to this very high-profile meeting in Malibu, in California, and this very famous director was receiving 16 or 17 years of sobriety, and he came up to the podium and he said those 7 words, "You're only as sick as your secrets." And it was like somebody threw a ball-peen hammer and hit me right in the middle of my forehead. And you know, it just made sense to me that, you know, I think the reason why I was struggling was, you know, I was keeping a lot of these secrets. And so, you know, when I sat down to write Playing with Fire, you know, it was a real good opportunity for me to release those secrets and share them with the world. And what happened was there's a whole bunch of other people in the world who have had the same experience as me, and you know, the rest is sort of history. You know, the last 15 years I've spent traveling around North America, sharing my story with people, and not only that, but them also sharing their stories with me of, you know, trauma and mental health issues and addiction issues. So, you know, the biggest epidemic on the planet is trauma, mental health, and addiction. There's nothing that even comes close to that. And, you know, the stigma attached to, you know, mental illness and addiction is, you know, that because, you know, growing up in the sort of tough love era and the suck it up era, you know, we weren't allowed to talk about these things. And you know, like I said, when I found the courage and the strength to use my voice to talk about my pain and suffering, you know, like I said, it was the moment that my life changed forever. And you know, I've been on this amazing journey of healing and helping other people heal as well.
And is that what you're doing a lot of now, is carrying that story forward and helping others?
Well, I've done 800 speeches in the last probably 11 years. So yeah, we've been quite busy, you know, sharing, you know, our experience, strength, and hope with people.
And the book itself, Playing with Fire, switching, the title apparently came from the son of your co-writer. Is that true?
Yeah. It's kind of a play on of the word flames. So,
well, it's like you played with fire, but also your whole life you were playing with fire, in the sense of you had this stuff behind you that was causing you to go, sometimes people would say, in the wrong direction. So is there a special message you would like people to take away from our chat or from the book? Or
well, I would encourage people to read the book first and foremost. You know, it's definitely a page turner, and
it certainly is.
You know, like I said, you know, it changed. Writing that book changed my life and put it on a different course and a different path. You know, and I believe if you have any kind of hope left after your experiences, you know, you can take that hope and really turn it into, you know, inspiration, and you know, you can provide hope for other people that they too can achieve exactly what you've achieved, you know, in sobriety or overcoming trauma or overcoming mental health. And you know, it's you know, God gave us a voice for a reason, and that was to use it. And you know, a lot of us who've experienced trauma, you know, we end up silent, and we end up suppressing all these emotions and things, and then they get stored in our body and cause us all kinds of, you know, physical health problems as well. And so, you know, when they say you need to talk about it, you absolutely need to talk about it, but you need to, you know, to find people who have compassion and empathy, that you can share these, you know, these deep, dark secrets that, you know, that have caused us a lot of pain and suffering over the years.
Well, if you go to our podcast, www.talkingbooks.tk, we have, like I said, the chat with Kelly Rudy. Started off talking about hockey and stuff, and then got into a little bit of a more serious subject, to say the least, about mental health and depression, and that was sort of an eye-opener for me. And then we also have a guest, we've had him on twice, Alan Keller. He was a drug addict and a drunk, and now turned his life around and does motivational speeches and writes books. And his theme is we're all born resilient, but we have to manage somehow to overcome these problems. So what are you up to these days? Like, what's your day-to-day life now for Theo Fleury?
Well, I do a lot of these podcasts, that's for sure.
Yay! We're so happy. Honest, I'm so happy to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of golf season, and so I spend, a lot of time on the golf course in the summer, and now the golf season's almost over. We're gearing towards hopefully, where we can travel a little bit and get out there and continue to give speeches and talks and stuff like that. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
In the book, you mentioned how you put on skates at age 5 and then never looked back. And I put on skates at age 12, and I'm still trying to make the first step. And I've written a story about how I'm the second worst hockey player in the world, because there's got to be somebody out there who's worse than I am. But still play with a bunch of 60-plus league in Saskatchewan, and they all tolerate me, which is very nice. Golf, are you a natural at golf?
Yes. It's my new addiction, but, it's funny because I say golf is what I take for my mental illness. It's a very, I get in this really meditative state while I'm on the course, and, the object of golf is to try and hit the ball in the middle of the club face every single time, which is a difficult task. But, I love the game. I love the sport. Both my boys play and are very good players. My dad, who's 80 years old, lives in High River, and he joins us probably 2 or 3 times a week. So, there's that piece of it as well. I get to, do some male bonding with my boys and my dad, and, all 4 of us love the game equally. And, it's just it's a great way to, to spend the summer. And, with COVID being around, they say that the best defense against COVID is a good immune system. And when you get lots of vitamin D, that means spending as much time as you can outdoors. That keeps you further away from, contracting the COVID virus. So, it's been a difficult time, but it, in another light, it's been great to be outdoors, and being on the golf course is, like I said, it's very calming, and it helps a lot with my depression and my anxiety.
Well, the trouble with golf is you can never win, though. You get a 68 one day, and you can't get it the next day. You got 72. So what? How does this work?
You're playing against the golf course. That's why there's there's par, and every day you're trying to achieve par or better. So that's the competitive part. If you don't shoot, whatever par is, then you lose that day. But if you shoot par or better, then you're winning.
You're winning. Ever thought of going on the senior tour?
No. No. I am a very good player, but I am not, I'm not a guy that consistently, shoots in the 60s. So you have to be a guy that, is capable of doing that in order to, to compete at, at that level.
That's right.
Those guys are good. Those guys are good, man. We have a senior tour event here in Calgary at Canyon Meadows. It's called the Shaw Charity Classic, and watching those guys play is pretty amazing. How at some guys at 65 years old that are still shooting in the 60s. So it's a tough sport. Less than 1% of all people that play golf in the world break 100. So that tells you right there that it's a tough game.
Wow, less than 1%. Holy smokes.
Yep.
Theo Fleury has been our guest here on Talking Books, talking about Playing with Fire, a very important book. It's been out for a few years, but I'm sure it's available in lots of places even now. Do you have a website or anything like that?
Yeah, you can actually purchase the book on my website. TheoFleury.life is the website.
.life?
Yep, TheoFleury.life.
Theo Fleury, TheoFleury.life. Great. You're not related to Marc-Andre Fleury, are you?
Well, he tells everybody that he's related to us, but he's not. So.
He's not. Okay. That's great. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And wow, maybe one of these days we'll actually meet in person.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.